Admiral Zexthara clicked her mandibles in satisfaction as she reviewed the tactical display aboard the Hegemony flagship Void Render Asterisk. The blue marble of Earth hung before them like a ripe fruit waiting to be plucked. 300 vessels of the galactic hegemony surrounded the primitive world, their weapons charged and ready. "Primitive fools," she muttered, her compound eyes gleaming with predatory hunger. 47 worlds have fallen before our might. What could one backward planet possibly do against the combined forces of 12 species? The humans had been surprisingly stubborn for such a young race. Most civilizations surrendered after the first demonstration of hegemony power, the complete obliteration of their outermost colonies. But these humans had done something unprecedented. They had issued an ultimatum. Commander Velter approached, his 6 legs clicking against the metal deck plating. "Admiral, we're receiving another transmission from the human homeworld. Same message as before." "Play it," Zexthara commanded, her voice dripping with amusement. The main screen flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human male in what appeared to be a simple blue uniform. His hair was graying at the temples, and his brown eyes held a strange quality that made several bridge officers shift uncomfortably. There was no fear in those eyes, only cold, calculating resolve. "This is Admiral James Harrison, speaking on behalf of Earth's United Defense Council. We have observed your attacks on our outer colonies. We have witnessed the destruction of Haven Station, the bombardment of New Geneva, and the massacre of civilians on Kepler 442b. We understand that your species believes in conquest through superior firepower." The human paused, his hands clasped behind his back. Even through the transmission, his presence seemed to fill the bridge of the Hegemony flagship. "We are giving you one final warning. Withdraw your forces from human space immediately. Cease all hostile actions against Earth and her colonies. You have 72 hours to comply." Several of Zexthara's officers made sounds that could only be described as laughter in their respective species' languages. The Krathari officer beside her, a 7-foot-tall lizard-like being, hissed in amusement. But the human wasn't finished. "If you choose to ignore this warning, if you proceed with your planned assault on Earth, you will face consequences that your species cannot comprehend. We are not like the other worlds you have conquered. We are not like the civilizations that surrendered after your first show of force. We are humans, and we have been preparing for this moment for longer than you realize." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in momentary silence before erupting in what could only be called hilarious disbelief. 72 hours, Velter chittered, his antennae twitching with mirth. "Admiral, this species grows more entertaining by the moment. What could they possibly threaten us with? Their largest vessels barely qualify as escort craft by our standards." Zexthara studied the tactical display more carefully. The humans had managed to destroy exactly 3 hegemony vessels during their entire resistance campaign. 3 ships out of the thousands the hegemony had deployed across human space. Their technology was at least 2 centuries behind hegemony standards. Their energy weapons couldn't penetrate modern shielding, and their kinetic projectiles were laughably primitive. "Perhaps they plan to throw rocks at us," suggested the Vorthak weapons officer, his tentacles writhing with amusement. But something nagged at Zexthara's tactical mind. She had conquered 47 worlds, and she had learned to recognize certain patterns. Desperation looked different from confidence. Fear had a distinct signature that could be detected in voice patterns, body language, even in the way a species composed their surrender demands. The human admiral had shown none of these signs. "Intelligence Officer Curix," she called to the insectoid being hunched over a sensor station. "What do we know about this Admiral Harrison?" Curix's multifaceted eyes didn't leave his displays. "Surprisingly little, Admiral. Human information networks are more secure than anticipated. We know he served in their military for approximately 30 Earth years. No significant conflicts during that period. The humans haven't fought a major war among themselves for over 2 centuries. "No wars?" This surprised Zexthara. Every species in the galaxy had lengthy histories of internal conflict. It was a natural part of evolution, the strong dominating the weak until one faction emerged supreme. "How is that possible?" "Unknown, Admiral. Their historical records suggest they unified remarkably quickly after achieving space travel. Almost as if—" Curix paused, his compound eyes reflecting the data streams. "Almost as if they had been planning for external threats rather than internal competition." The nagging feeling in Zexthara's mind grew stronger. She pulled up the tactical assessment of human military capabilities. On paper, they were laughably outmatched. The humans possessed approximately 2,000 combat vessels, mostly small frigates and destroyers. The hegemony had brought 15,000 ships for this final assault, including 37 dreadnought-class vessels that could obliterate continents. Human energy shields couldn't stop hegemony plasma cannons. Human armor plating couldn't withstand quantum disruptors. Human computer systems operated at a fraction of hegemony processing speeds. By every measurable standard, this should be the most one-sided battle in galactic history. So why did Admiral Harrison look so confident? Sensors run a deep scan of the Earth system. I want to know the location of every human vessel, every defensive platform, every piece of military hardware they possess. The sensor operator, a methane-breathing Zerlak, manipulated his controls with precise movements of his manipulator arms. Scanning now, Admiral. This may take several minutes to penetrate their sensor jammers. While they waited, Zexthara reviewed the tactical footage from the attacks on human colonies. The humans fought with a coordination that impressed even veteran hegemony officers. They never panicked, never broke formation, never surrendered even when facing impossible odds. Their tactical responses were swift and effective, maximizing damage to hegemony forces while minimizing their own losses. But what struck her most was how they fought. Other species relied on superior technology or overwhelming numbers. The humans fought with an almost artistic precision, using every environmental factor, every tactical advantage, every weakness in hegemony formations. They turned asteroid fields into weapon platforms, used gravity wells to redirect hegemony missiles back at their launchers, and somehow managed to hack into hegemony communication networks to spread disinformation. Scan complete, Admiral, the Zerlak announced. Results are unusual. Define unusual. I'm detecting approximately 2,000 human vessels in the outer system, as expected. Standard defensive formations around their major installations, but there are significant gaps in sensor coverage around the inner planets. Zexthara's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Sensor shadows. Negative, Admiral. The shadows are too regular, too precisely placed. It appears the humans have deployed some form of advanced stealth technology we haven't encountered before. This was the first truly surprising piece of information Zexthara had received about human capabilities. Stealth technology advanced enough to fool hegemony sensors would require computational power and energy management far beyond what intelligence reports suggested humans possessed. Tactical assessment, she asked her staff. Commander Velter consulted his data tablet. Even accounting for unknown stealth vessels, human forces remain outnumbered 7-1. Our technological advantage remains overwhelming. Victory probability remains at 99.7%. And the remaining 0.3%. Unknown variables, Admiral, primarily related to potential human technological capabilities not yet observed. Zexthara stared at the blue marble hanging in space before them. 47 worlds had fallen to hegemony might. Civilizations that had existed for millennia, species that had mastered technologies the humans had never even dreamed of. All had surrendered or been destroyed. But none of them had issued ultimatums. None of them had looked at a hegemony fleet and shown no fear. Communications, open a channel to the fleet. All vessels are to maintain maximum alert status. Weapons charged, shields at full power. I want combat patrols doubled and sensor sweeps running continuously. Admiral, Velter asked, do you actually consider these humans a threat? Zexthara was quiet for a long moment, studying the tactical display. The human fleet was pathetically small. Their technology was demonstrably inferior. Their homeworld hung defenseless before the greatest military force ever assembled in this galaxy. I consider unknown variables a threat, Commander, and there are too many unknowns surrounding this species. As if summoned by her words, alerts began sounding across the bridge. The communications officer's voice cut through the noise with barely controlled excitement. Admiral, we're receiving multiple priority transmissions from Hegemony High Command. Emergency authentication codes confirmed. Put it through. The image of Supreme Admiral Korvthak filled the main screen, his usually composed features twisted with something Zexthara had never seen before. Genuine concern. Admiral Zexthara, you are to abort your assault on the human homeworld immediately. New intelligence has emerged regarding human capabilities. Return to designated rally point Beta 7 and await further orders. The bridge fell silent. In 300 years of hegemony expansion, no assault had ever been called off due to intelligence concerns. Supreme Admiral, with respect, the humans possess no capabilities that pose a significant threat to our forces. Their technology is primitive, their numbers insufficient. Admiral, Korvthak interrupted, his voice carrying an edge of desperation that sent chills down Zexthara's spine. 6 hours ago, the human homeworld transmitted a single message to Hegemony's Central Command. It contained the complete structural schematics of our newest dreadnought design. Schematics that were classified at the highest levels and stored in quantum-encrypted databases that should be impossible to breach. The implications hit Zexthara like a physical blow. If humans could penetrate Hegemony's Central Command security systems, if they had access to classified military designs. The message also contained targeting solutions for 17 different Hegemony worlds, including homeworlds of 4 member species. The calculations were precise enough to account for planetary rotation, orbital mechanics, and defensive fleet positions, all calculated in real time. Zexthara's compound eyes widened. Such calculations would require computational power beyond anything the Hegemony possessed. The processing requirements alone would demand energy output equivalent to a star. Supreme Admiral, what are your orders? Korvthak's image flickered as encrypted data streams updated his transmission. You have 18 hours to clear the Sol system. All Hegemony forces are being recalled to defensive positions. Intelligence Division is conducting an emergency assessment of human capabilities. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Commander Velter was the first to speak. Admiral, this could be a deception, intelligence gathering rather than actual capability. Perhaps they intercepted communications, used social engineering, bribed corrupt officials. Commander, Zexthara said quietly, her voice cutting through his speculation like a blade. In your professional opinion, how long would it take our finest tactical computers to calculate real-time targeting solutions for 17 different worlds simultaneously? Velter consulted his data systems, his confidence visibly deflating as he processed the numbers. Approximately 437 hours, using our most advanced quantum processors running at maximum capacity. The human transmission was sent 6 hours after our fleet's arrival. They calculated targeting solutions for 17 worlds in less time than it takes our computers to plan a single orbital bombardment. The tactical implications were staggering. If humans possessed computational capabilities that exceeded Hegemony technology by such vast margins, their apparent technological inferiority could be nothing more than careful misdirection. Navigation, plot a course out of the Sol system. Maximum burn. Admiral, the navigation officer reported moments later, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're requesting permission to escort us to the system's edge. Escort, not pursue, not attack. Escort. As if the Hegemony fleet were honored guests being politely shown the door. Zexthara's mandibles clicked in what might have been admiration. Accept their offer, navigator, and tell the human admiral that his escort is appreciated. As the massive Hegemony fleet began its withdrawal from Sol system, Zexthara couldn't shake the feeling that they had just avoided something far worse than military defeat. They had avoided learning exactly what humans were truly capable of when threatened. Admiral James Harrison stood in the observation deck of the UDS Prometheus, watching the Hegemony fleet's running lights disappear into the dark between stars. His weathered hands gripped the railing as he processed what had just occurred. The largest invasion force in galactic history had withdrawn without firing a single shot. Admiral, came the voice of his tactical coordinator, Commander Sarah Chen, as she approached from behind. Deep space sensors confirm the last Hegemony vessel has cleared the heliopause. Fleet is maintaining escort formation as requested, but they're not slowing down. Harrison nodded slowly. Good. Make sure our escort ships maintain respectful distance. No reason to make them feel threatened during their withdrawal. Chen moved beside him at the observation window, her expression troubled. Sir, I have to ask. The demonstration we just gave them, Was that the extent of our capabilities or just enough to make them reconsider? Harrison was quiet for a long moment, his reflection ghost-like in the reinforced transparent aluminum. At 63, he had spent more than half his life preparing for this moment. Not just preparing Earth's defenses, but preparing humanity for what they might have to become. Commander, what do you know about the Melbourne incident of 2387? Chen's brow furrowed. Very little, sir. It's classified above my clearance level. Something about first contact with an aggressive species. The Vectari, Harrison said, his voice carrying the weight of old memories. Encountered one of our deep space exploration vessels near the Centauri system. Shot it down without provocation, captured the survivors, and began what they called biological assessment of human specimens. Harrison pulled up a holographic display showing star charts of human space. Red markers indicated various incidents over the past 2 centuries. The Vectari weren't the first, or the last. In the past 200 years, we've had 17 separate first contact scenarios with hostile alien species. 17 different races that saw humans as either resources to be exploited or threats to be eliminated. Chen studied the display with growing alarm. Sir, I've never seen any of this in the historical records. Because none of these incidents made it into the historical records, Commander. Each time, the encounters were contained, the threats neutralized, and the information classified at the highest levels. The general population never knew how many times we've come within hours of species-wide extinction. Harrison gestured toward the space where the hegemony fleet had been. The galactic hegemony represents the largest and most successful of these threats. 47 conquered civilizations, each one more advanced than the last. Each one that thought their technology, their numbers, their experience would be enough. But sir, our technology really is inferior to theirs. Our weapons, our shields, our ship designs, everything the hegemony intelligence reports showed was accurate. Harrison smiled, and Chen was surprised to see genuine warmth in the expression. Commander, what's the first rule of human military doctrine? Never fight fair, sir. Exactly. The hegemony made the same mistake every other aggressive species has made when encountering humanity. They assumed that technological superiority equals military superiority. Harrison activated another holographic display, this one showing the interior of what appeared to be a massive facility buried deep underground. Kilometers of corridors stretched in every direction, filled with equipment Chen couldn't begin to identify. Welcome to Project Deep Think, Commander. Humanity's response to the reality that we will always be technologically inferior to any species that achieves interstellar travel before us. Chen stared at the display in amazement. The facility appeared to extend for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, with multiple levels disappearing into darkness above and below. How long has this been under construction? We broke ground in 2156, 3 months after the Melbourne incident. It achieved full operational capacity in 2298. For the past 127 years, Deep Think has been running continuous strategic analysis of every potential threat to human survival. Harrison manipulated the display to show a different section of the facility. This area contained what appeared to be massive computational arrays, their quantum processors humming with activity that generated enough heat to require cooling systems the size of buildings. Deep Think doesn't just analyze threats, Commander. It develops responses. Every possible scenario, every potential weakness, every strategic advantage that could be exploited by an inferior force against superior opposition. Chen began to understand the implications. The targeting solutions you transmitted to Hegemony High Command. Calculated by Deep Think in real time? Yes. But that demonstration only scratched the surface of what this facility can accomplish when fully committed to a problem. Harrison pulled up tactical assessments that made Chen's breath catch in her throat. Detailed analysis of hegemony fleet movements, complete psychological profiles of key commanders, strategic assessments of every ship class in their fleet. But more than that, Deep Think had identified 17 different scenarios that would result in complete hegemony defeat, despite their overwhelming technological and numerical advantages. How is this possible? The computational power required would be beyond anything any known civilization possesses, Harrison finished. Because Deep Think isn't just a computer facility, Commander, it's a living system. Chen stared at him in confusion. Sir. In 2203, during first contact with the Zephyrian collective, we discovered something remarkable. The Zephyrians were a hive-mind species, capable of linking individual consciousness into a collective intelligence far greater than the sum of its parts. They were also, unfortunately, completely committed to destroying humanity as a potential rival. Harrison's expression darkened with old pain. The war with the Zephyrians lasted 3 days, 3 days during which they demonstrated computational and strategic capabilities that should have made victory impossible for us. But we managed to capture several Zephyrian individuals during the conflict. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. What did we do with them? We offered them a choice, Harrison said simply. Integration into human society with full rights and protections in exchange for sharing their hive-mind capabilities with voluntary human participants. The implications hit Chen like a physical blow. Deepthink isn't just a computer facility, it's a human Zephyrian hybrid intelligence network. 12,000 human volunteers, working in permanent neural interface with 47 Zephyrian collective nodes. A true hybrid intelligence that combines human creativity and adaptability with Zephyrian computational power and strategic analysis capability. Harrison showed her another section of the facility, where thousands of humans lay in specialized pods, their minds linked through technology that seemed to blur the line between biology and engineering. Every strategic scenario the hegemony could conceive, Deepthink has already analyzed. Every possible response they might make, we've already planned counter-responses for. Every technological advantage they possess, we've identified at least 3 different ways to neutralize or turn against them. Chen stared at the displays, trying to process what she was learning. Sir, if we possess these capabilities, why did we allow them to destroy our outer colonies? Why not stop them before they reach the Sol system? Harrison's expression grew somber. Because, Commander, the moment we reveal the full extent of our capabilities, every species in the galaxy will recognize humanity as the greatest threat they've ever encountered. The hegemony conquered 47 civilizations over 3 centuries. Deepthink has identified potential strategies for conquering 47 civilizations in 3 months. The observation deck fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship systems. Chen struggled to reconcile what she was learning with everything she thought she knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. We allowed the hegemony to attack our outer colonies because we needed to understand their capabilities, their tactics, their strategic priorities. Every engagement provided data that Deepthink used to refine our response strategies. By the time they reached Sol's system, we knew exactly how to defeat them without revealing how dangerous we truly are. Harrison turned away from the observation window, his expression carrying the weight of decisions that affected the survival of entire species. The warning we gave them was genuine, Commander. If they had proceeded with their assault on Earth, we would have been forced to demonstrate capabilities that would terrify every other species in the galaxy. The hegemony would have been completely destroyed, and humanity would have become the target of every defensive alliance, every preemptive strike, every species that prioritizes their own survival over galactic peace. Chen followed him as he walked toward the bridge. So what happens now, sir? Now we wait and see if the hegemony has learned its lesson. Deepthink estimates a 73% probability that they'll attempt to negotiate some form of peaceful coexistence rather than risk discovering what our full fury actually entails. As they entered the bridge, Communications Officer Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up from his station. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from Hegemony High Command. They're requesting permission to establish formal diplomatic contact with Earth's government. Harrison smiled, the expression carrying satisfaction tinged with relief. Grant their request, Lieutenant, and send a message to the UN Security Council. Tell them it's time to activate the diplomatic protocols we've been preparing for the past 2 centuries. Chen remained troubled. Sir, what if other species analyze what happened here? What if they realize that our apparent technological inferiority is deliberate misdirection? Harrison paused at his command chair, considering the question carefully. Then, Commander, they'll face the same choice the hegemony just faced. Accept humanity as a peaceful neighbor despite our capabilities, or discover exactly what those capabilities entail. He settled into his chair, bringing up tactical displays that showed the dispersing hegemony fleet, and the small human escort force maintaining respectful distance. The beautiful thing about fear, Commander, is that it makes species very careful about their choices. The hegemony just learned that humanity is far more dangerous than they anticipated. But they also learned that we prefer diplomacy to destruction, negotiation to annihilation. Harrison activated the ship-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Harrison. The immediate threat to Earth has been resolved through diplomatic means. Maintain current positions while escorting our guests to the system boundary, then return to standard patrol duties. As the bridge crew began implementing his orders, Harrison reflected on the path that had brought humanity to this moment. 2 centuries of preparation, of building capabilities in secret while maintaining the appearance of technological inferiority. 2 centuries of developing strategies that could defeat any conceivable enemy without revealing how vulnerable those enemies truly were. The gamble had worked. The hegemony was withdrawing, hopefully to reconsider their expansion policies in light of new information about human capabilities. But Harrison knew this was only the beginning. Word of what had happened here would spread throughout the galaxy. Other species would begin to wonder about humanity's true nature, about the technologies hidden behind their facade of primitive development. Some would approach with caution and respect. Others would see humanity as a threat that needed to be eliminated before it became unstoppable. "Commander Chen," Harrison said quietly, "begin preparations for the next phase of operations. Something tells me our peaceful isolation is about to become much more complicated." 3 months after the hegemony withdrawal, the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime buzzed with tension that could be felt across multiple species' sensory spectrums. Representatives from 47 different civilizations had gathered for an emergency session, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, telepathic emanations, and subsonic vibrations. At the center of the great circular chamber, Supreme Counselor Mordain of the first species called for order with a harmonic resonance that cut through all other sounds. The ancient being's crystalline form pulsed with patterns of light that served as both speech and emotional display. "We are gathered to address the human situation," Mordain announced, his words translated instantly into 46 different forms of communication. 3 standard months ago, the galactic hegemony suffered their first military defeat in over 3 centuries, not through superior firepower or technology, but through a demonstration of capabilities that has forced us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about this species. In the section reserved for hegemony representatives, Admiral Zexthara shifted uncomfortably. The humiliation of their withdrawal from Sol system had cost several high-ranking officials their positions, but her honest assessment of human capabilities had saved her career. Now she served as the hegemony's primary expert on human military doctrine. "The humans," she began when recognized to speak, "demonstrated computational capabilities that exceed our most advanced quantum processing systems by several orders of magnitude. They possess strategic analysis capabilities that allowed them to predict our movements and responses with near-perfect accuracy. Most concerning, they appear to have access to our most classified information through means we cannot understand or counter." Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. The representative of the Corvani Trade Federation, a species that had joined the hegemony voluntarily after witnessing their military power, spoke next. "With respect to the Admiral, are we certain this wasn't simply an elaborate deception? Intelligence gathering and psychological warfare rather than genuine capability?" Zexthara's mandibles clicked in what her species considered grim amusement. "Counselor Velnoth, 2 weeks ago the humans transmitted detailed structural analysis of 17 different space stations across Corvani space, including the locations of defensive weaknesses in each installation. They provided this information as a gift to demonstrate the inadequacy of our current security protocols." The Corvani representative's tentacles writhed with distress. Those space stations represented centuries of engineering advancement, protected by the most sophisticated security systems the Federation could devise. "Furthermore," Zexthara continued, "they included recommendations for improving our defensive capabilities and offered to share certain technological innovations that would help protect against the specific vulnerabilities they identified." This revelation sent shock waves through the assembly. In the entire recorded history of galactic civilization, No species had ever offered to help strengthen the defenses of potential enemies. Supreme Counselor Mordane's crystalline form shifted to patterns indicating deep contemplation. This behavior suggests the humans possess capabilities far beyond what they demonstrated during the hegemony withdrawal. If they could identify critical vulnerabilities in our most secure installations, what else might they be capable of? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council, had been granted permission to address the Assembly despite humanity not yet holding formal membership status. "Honored counselors," she began, her words carrying the careful diplomatic training that had prepared her for this moment. "I appreciate the opportunity to address your concerns directly. Many of you are wondering about humanity's true capabilities, our intentions, and our place in galactic civilization." Dr. Vasquez was a small woman by human standards, but she carried herself with the quiet confidence that the Council had begun to associate with her species. Her graying hair and lined face spoke of decades spent in academic pursuit, but her eyes held the same unsettling quality that had marked Admiral Harrison's transmission months earlier. "I want to begin by addressing the most fundamental question underlying this assembly. Are humans a threat to galactic peace and stability?" She paused, allowing her words to be fully translated before continuing. "The answer is both simple and complex. Humans are only a threat to species or organizations that threaten human survival or the survival of our allies. We have no interest in conquest, no desire for domination, no plans for expansion beyond the territories we already inhabit." The representative of the Vorthak Empire, a species known for their aggressive expansion policies, interjected with obvious skepticism. "Ambassador, your species has demonstrated capabilities that could theoretically conquer every civilization in this chamber. How can you expect us to believe you have no expansionist ambitions?" Dr. Vasquez smiled, and several council members noticed that her expression carried the same unsettling confidence they had observed in other humans. "Counselor Grixter, your question demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology and strategic thinking. You assume that because we could conquer, we must want to conquer. This assumption reveals more about your species' mindset than ours." She activated a holographic display showing Earth's solar system, with various human colonies and installations clearly marked. Humanity controls exactly 12 star systems, with a total population of approximately 14 billion individuals. We have maintained these same territorial boundaries for over 150 years, despite possessing the technological and military capabilities to expand significantly during that time. The display shifted to show trade routes, diplomatic exchanges, and peaceful interactions between humans and the few species that had established contact before the hegemony incident. When the Centauran Republic requested assistance with a plague that was devastating their agricultural worlds, we provided medical aid and asked for nothing in return. When the Delian Confederacy faced economic collapse due to resource depletion, we shared mining technologies and established favorable trade agreements that helped them recover their prosperity. Supreme Counselor Mordane's light patterns shifted to indicate intense interest. "Ambassador, these actions suggest a level of altruism that most species would consider strategically disadvantageous. What do humans gain from helping potential competitors?" Dr. Vasquez's expression grew thoughtful. "Counselor, humans have a saying, 'A rising tide lifts all boats.' We believe that galactic civilization grows stronger when all species prosper, not when one species dominates all others." "But surely," pressed the hegemony representative, "you must recognize that such capabilities as your species possesses could be seen as threatening regardless of your stated intentions." "Admiral Zexthara raises an important point," Dr. Vasquez acknowledged. "Human capabilities are extensive, and we understand that other species might view us with suspicion or fear. This is precisely why we have maintained such a low profile for the past 2 centuries. She activated another display, this one showing a timeline of human technological development that made several council members shift nervously in their seats or equivalent resting positions. Humans achieved faster-than-light travel in 2156. We developed quantum processing capabilities in 2178. By 2203, we had created hybrid intelligence systems that exceeded the computational abilities of any known species. We have possessed what you might consider overwhelming military capabilities for over 100 years. The implications of this revelation rippled through the assembly. If humans had possessed such capabilities for so long, their apparent technological inferiority was clearly a deliberate deception. Yet during this entire period, Dr. Vasquez continued, humanity has maintained peaceful relations with every species we have encountered, with the sole exception of those who attacked us first. We have never initiated hostilities, never demanded tribute, never attempted to impose our will on other civilizations. The representative of the Altarian Collective, a species known for their philosophical approach to interspecies relations, spoke with the harmonic tones that marked their communication. Ambassador, your species' restraint is admirable, but it raises troubling questions. If humans have possessed such capabilities for so long, why reveal them now? What has changed that makes concealment no longer viable? Dr. Vasquez's expression grew somber. Counselor Hayeth, the hegemony's expansion policies have reached a scale that threatens the stability of the entire galaxy. 47 conquered civilizations, with aggressive expansion continuing unchecked. Our strategic analysis indicated that without intervention, the hegemony would achieve galactic dominance within another century. She paused, her next words carrying weight that settled over the assembly like a physical presence. Humanity could not allow that outcome, regardless of the personal cost to our own security and anonymity. Admiral Zexthara's compound eyes widened as the implications became clear. You revealed your capabilities specifically to stop hegemony expansion. Not to stop it, Admiral, to provide an alternative. The hegemony succeeded because no single species possessed the capability to resist their military superiority. Now you know that such capability exists. The question becomes whether you choose to continue expansion policies that will inevitably lead to direct conflict with humanity, or whether you prefer to explore diplomatic solutions that benefit all parties. Supreme Counselor Mordane's crystalline form pulsed with patterns indicating deep analysis. Ambassador, are you saying that humanity deliberately sacrificed their strategic advantage of secrecy in order to preserve galactic stability? That is exactly what I'm saying, Counselor. Humanity spent 2 centuries developing capabilities that would ensure our survival in a hostile galaxy. When we realized that our continued secrecy might enable the destruction of galactic civilization, we chose to reveal ourselves rather than allow that outcome. The chamber fell silent as representatives processed this information. The concept of a species voluntarily sacrificing strategic advantage for the benefit of potential enemies was unprecedented in galactic history. The Vorthak representative spoke again, his voice carrying uncertainty that marked a dramatic shift from his earlier aggressive tone. If humans possess such overwhelming capabilities, what guarantee do we have that you won't use them for conquest once your immediate objectives are achieved? Dr. Vasquez smiled again, but this time the expression carried warmth rather than the unsettling confidence that had marked her earlier statements. Counselor Grixter, the best guarantee I can offer is 2 centuries of human behavior. We have possessed these capabilities for generations and used them only for defensive purposes. We have helped species that could never repay us, protected civilizations that might someday become our enemies, and shared technologies that could theoretically be turned against us. She gestured toward the assembled representatives with a sweep that encompassed the entire chamber. But more than that, I can offer you the opportunity to verify our intentions through direct observation. Humanity is formally requesting membership in the Galactic Council. We want to participate in galactic civilization as partners and equals, not as conquerors or overlords. The implications of formal human membership in the Council sent new waves of discussion through the Assembly. A species with their demonstrated capabilities would fundamentally alter the balance of galactic politics. Supreme Counselor Mordane called for order once again. Ambassador Vasquez, humanity's request for Council membership will require extensive deliberation. However, I believe I speak for many present when I say that your species has already demonstrated the kind of restraint and wisdom that Council membership is intended to promote. He paused, his crystalline form shifting to patterns that indicated formal decision-making. I propose that we establish a formal diplomatic commission to begin integration protocols for human membership in the Galactic Council. Furthermore, I propose that we invite human observers to participate in our discussions regarding the restructuring of current territorial and expansion policies. Dr. Vasquez bowed her head in acknowledgement. Humanity would be honored to participate in such discussions, Counselor. As the Assembly moved toward formal votes on these proposals, Admiral Zexthara reflected on how completely the situation had changed. 3 months ago, the hegemony had been the dominant military force in the galaxy, expanding their territory with impunity. Now they faced a choice between diplomacy and destruction, negotiation and annihilation. And the species offering them this choice had just voluntarily surrendered the strategic advantage of secrecy in order to preserve galactic stability. For the first time in her military career, Zexthara found herself genuinely uncertain about what came next. 6 months after humanity's revelation to the Galactic Council, the universe had become a very different place. The Great Conference Chamber aboard the neutral station Harmony's Edge hosted the most significant diplomatic gathering in recorded galactic history. Representatives from over 200 species had come to witness the signing of what historians would later call the Terran Accords. Admiral James Harrison stood beside Ambassador Vasquez, no longer the hidden guardian of humanity's secrets, but now the public face of human military doctrine. The past months had been a whirlwind of revelation, negotiation, and careful diplomatic maneuvering, as species after species grappled with the reality of human capabilities. Nervous, Vasquez asked quietly as they watched the final delegations take their positions around the massive circular table. Harrison smiled, his weathered features showing a peace that had been absent for decades. Relieved, mostly. After 200 years of hiding what we could do, it's refreshing to be honest about who we are. The centerpiece of the Accords was elegant in its simplicity. A galaxy-wide non-aggression pact that established protocols for peaceful dispute resolution, resource sharing, and mutual defense against external threats. But the document's true significance lay in what it represented. The first time in galactic history that military strength had been used to create peace rather than impose domination. Supreme Counselor Mordane's crystalline form pulsed with ceremonial patterns as he called the Assembly to order. We gather today to formalize a new chapter in galactic civilization. The Terran Accords represent not just an agreement between species, but a fundamental shift in how we approach interstellar relations. Admiral Zexthara, now serving as the hegemony's ambassador for peaceful expansion, rose to address the Assembly. Her transformation from military conqueror to diplomatic advocate had been one of the most remarkable changes of the past months. 6 months ago, the hegemony stood at the pinnacle of galactic military power, she began, her voice carrying none of the predatory hunger that had once marked her communications. We believed that strength meant the ability to take what we wanted from those too weak to resist. She paused, her compound eyes reflecting the lights of dozens of different species, recording devices. Humanity taught us that true strength lies in the ability to protect rather than conquer, to build rather than destroy. The hegemony formally renounces all territorial claims obtained through military conquest and commits to the peaceful resolution of all future disputes. The declaration sent ripples of amazement through the Assembly. The hegemony's voluntary abandonment of conquered territories would reshape the political map of the galaxy. But it was the next speaker who drew the most intense attention. Fleet Admiral Kethvar of the Andromedian Empire had traveled from another galaxy specifically for this ceremony. His species had been monitoring galactic civilization for centuries, waiting to see if local inhabitants would develop beyond primitive territorial competition. Representatives of the Milky Way civilizations, he began, his words translated through technology far more advanced than anything the local galaxy possessed. The Andromedian Empire has observed your development with great interest. Most galactic civilizations follow predictable patterns, expansion through conquest until they either destroy themselves or stagnate into decline. Admiral Kethvar's form was humanoid, but clearly evolved under different conditions. His pale blue skin and over-large eyes adapted for the different star types of his home galaxy. Humanity has broken this pattern, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through the wisdom to use strength in service of peace rather than conquest. This achievement has earned recognition from civilizations far older and more advanced than any currently present. He activated a holographic display that showed star charts extending far beyond the local galactic cluster. Points of light marked the locations of dozens of different galactic civilizations, connected by trade routes and diplomatic channels that spanned millions of light years. The Andromedian Empire formally invites the Milky Way Confederation, as represented by these accords, to join the Intergalactic Council. You have demonstrated the maturity necessary to participate in civilization on a truly cosmic scale. The implications of this invitation stunned even the human representatives. Membership in an intergalactic civilization would provide access to technologies, knowledge, and resources beyond current imagination. Dr. Vasquez rose to respond, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what was being offered. Admiral Kethvar, on behalf of the Milky Way Confederation, we are honored by your invitation. However, we believe our first responsibility is to demonstrate that we can successfully maintain peace and cooperation within our own galaxy before seeking to expand our relationships beyond it. Admiral Kethvar's expression showed approval. A wise response, Ambassador. The invitation remains open when your civilization feels ready to accept it. As the formal signing ceremony began, each species representative added their agreement to the accords using methods appropriate to their culture. Energy signatures, quantum entanglements, genetic samples, crystalline resonances, and dozens of other forms of binding commitment were recorded and verified. When the humans' turn came, Admiral Harrison stepped forward with a simple stylus and paper document, an intentionally primitive method that emphasized humanity's commitment to honesty over technological display. Humanity signs these accords not as the dominant military power in this galaxy, but as equal partners in building a better future for all species, he announced as he added his signature to the document. The ceremony concluded with a demonstration that would be remembered for generations. At humanity's invitation, representatives from every signatory species were given limited access to deep thinks analysis capabilities, not the full strategic and military analysis functions, but enough to show the incredible potential of hybrid intelligence systems. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as Director of Interspecies Scientific Cooperation, explained the demonstration to the assembled delegates. What you're about to see represents a fundamental breakthrough in how different forms of intelligence can work together. Human creativity and adaptability, Zephyrian collective processing power, but also contributions from 12 other species who have chosen to participate in the Hybrid Intelligence Project. The display showed a complex scientific problem, the challenge of establishing sustainable agricultural systems on worlds with extreme environmental conditions. Within minutes, DeepThink's Hybrid Intelligence Network had developed 17 different solutions, each adapted for specific types of environmental extremes and different species' nutritional requirements. This is what becomes possible when different forms of intelligence work together rather than competing for dominance, Chen explained. Problems that would take individual species decades to solve can be addressed in minutes through cooperative intelligence networks. The Altarian Collective's representative, Counselor Hayeth, spoke with obvious awe. Dr. Chen, are you suggesting that this hybrid intelligence capability could be expanded to include other species? Not just suggesting, Counselor, offering. Any species that wishes to participate in expanded hybrid intelligence networks will be welcome, with full safeguards to protect individual consciousness and voluntary participation protocols. The implications were staggering. If multiple species could contribute their unique cognitive capabilities to cooperative intelligence networks, the problem-solving potential would be virtually unlimited. As the ceremony wound down and delegates began to disperse, Admiral Zexthara approached Admiral Harrison with a question that had been troubling her for months. Admiral, I must ask directly. When you issued that final warning to our fleet, when you threatened to show us humanity's full fury, what would we actually have faced if we had proceeded with the assault on Earth? Harrison was quiet for a long moment, considering how much truth the former hegemony commander was ready to hear. Admiral, the demonstration we gave your fleet was approximately 3% of our actual defensive capabilities. If you had proceeded with the assault, your entire fleet would have been disabled or destroyed within the first 4 minutes of engagement. Zexthara's mandibles clicked in what might have been horror. The entire fleet, 15,000 vessels. Without a single human casualty, Harrison confirmed. Our defensive systems were designed to handle threats far larger than your fleet, but that's not the worst of what would have happened. He activated a personal display device showing tactical analysis that made Zexthara's compound eyes widen in shock. If forced into full military response, humanity would have been compelled to eliminate the hegemony as a strategic threat. Deepthink had identified 47 different scenarios for the complete conquest of all hegemony worlds within a 6-month timeframe. The casual way Harrison discussed the potential destruction of an entire galactic civilization sent chills down Zexthara's spine. "Admiral, why are you telling me this now?" Harrison's expression grew serious. "Because I want you to understand exactly what humanity chose not to do. We possess the capability to become the dominant power in this galaxy through force, but we chose cooperation instead. We could have ruled through fear, but we preferred to lead by example." Zexthara nodded slowly, finally understanding the true magnitude of humanity's restraint. "There's something else you should know, Admiral," Harrison continued. "The Hybrid Intelligence Project, the cooperative research initiatives, the technological sharing agreements, all of these make every participating species stronger and safer, including humanity." "How so?" "Because the greatest threat to galactic civilization isn't any individual species or empire. It's stagnation, isolation, and the kind of thinking that sees other species as either resources to be exploited or threats to be eliminated." Harrison gestured toward the observation windows, where dozens of different species vessels were departing the station, their representatives carrying news of the Accords back to their homeworlds. By working together, by combining different forms of intelligence and different perspectives on problem-solving, we create a civilization that can handle challenges none of us could face alone. External threats, cosmic disasters, the kind of problems that require truly cooperative solutions. As Admiral Harrison prepared to depart for Earth, he reflected on how completely the situation had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had been a hidden power, secretly preparing for threats that might never come. Now they were public partners in building a galactic civilization that could face any challenge through cooperation rather than conquest. The Terran Accords represented more than just a peace treaty. They represented a fundamental shift in how intelligent species could relate to each other, not as competitors in a zero-sum game, but as partners in building something greater than any of them could achieve alone. And in the depths of space, monitoring stations of the Andromedian Empire recorded every detail of the ceremony, adding humanity's name to a very short list of species deemed ready for true cosmic citizenship. 1 year after the signing of the Terran Accords, the galaxy had transformed in ways that even Deepthink's most optimistic projections had not fully anticipated. Admiral James Harrison stood in the expanded command center of Deepthink, now redesignated as the Galactic Cooperative Intelligence Center, watching real-time displays that showed the unprecedented level of interspecies collaboration taking place across dozens of worlds. "Admiral," called Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Director of Intergalactic Relations, "we're receiving the final confirmation from the Andromedian Empire. They're officially approving our application for Intergalactic Council membership." Harrison smiled, feeling a satisfaction that came not from military victory, but from something far more meaningful, the knowledge that humanity had used its strength to build rather than destroy. "How many species have joined the expanded hybrid intelligence network now?" he asked Dr. Chen, who was monitoring the integration of new cognitive architectures into the cooperative system. 43 so far, with 12 more requesting evaluation for compatibility. The crystalline hierarchies brought pattern recognition capabilities we never imagined possible. The Methane Collective introduced quantum probability processing that's revolutionizing our predictive modeling. And the newest additions, the Empathic Union, are providing emotional intelligence integration that's solving diplomatic problems we didn't even realize we had. Harrison studied the displays showing hybrid intelligence nodes operating across 17 different star systems. Each node represented not just computational power, but a living example of how different forms of consciousness could work together while maintaining their individual identities. "Any resistance from species worried about losing their autonomy?" he asked. "Less than anticipated," Chen replied. "The voluntary participation protocols have eliminated most concerns. Every species maintains complete control over their contribution level and can withdraw at any time. More importantly, the benefits have been so immediate and obvious that most initial skepticism has disappeared. The benefits were indeed remarkable. Agricultural yields had increased by an average of 340% on participating worlds through optimized farming techniques developed by the hybrid network. Medical breakthroughs that would have taken individual species decades to achieve were being developed and shared in months. Even artistic and cultural exchange had flourished as different species found new ways to communicate and create together. "Admiral," interrupted Commander Rodriguez from the communications station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Outer Rim monitoring stations. Unknown vessels approaching from the galactic edge. Trajectory suggests extragalactic origin." Harrison felt a familiar tension as his mind shifted into tactical mode. But this time, it was tempered by confidence in humanity's allies and the unprecedented capabilities of the Cooperative Intelligence Network. "Analysis. DeepThink is processing now, sir. Preliminary assessment suggests approximately 200 vessels of unknown configuration. Energy signatures don't match any known galactic civilization." Dr. Vasquez joined them at the tactical display, her diplomatic training helping her interpret the implications. Could this be another test from the Andromedian Empire? "Negative," Harrison replied after consulting the hybrid network's analysis. "These vessels are using technology that's inconsistent with Andromedian design principles. More concerning, their approach vector suggests they bypassed all Andromedian monitoring stations in this galaxy." The tactical implications were clear. If these unknown vessels had managed to enter the galaxy without being detected by a civilization as advanced as the Andromedian Empire, their capabilities were potentially significant. "Sir," Rodriguez continued, "we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessels. It's being broadcast on all major galactic communication frequencies simultaneously." "Put it through." The main display filled with the image of a being that defied easy classification. Its form seemed to shift between organic and mechanical components, with portions that appeared to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. When it spoke, the words seemed to resonate directly in the minds of everyone present rather than through normal audio channels. "Inhabitants of Galactic Cluster designated MWG-1, you are hereby notified that this region has been selected for resource extraction and population relocation. All sentient species have 72 standard time units to begin evacuation procedures. Failure to comply will result in forced extraction protocols." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Dr. Vasquez was the first to speak. "Did they just demand that we evacuate our entire galaxy?" Harrison was already pulling up tactical assessments, but what he saw made his blood run cold. The hybrid intelligence network was processing the unknown vessel's capabilities, and the results were unlike anything they had encountered before. "These aren't just advanced aliens," he said quietly. "According to DeepThink's analysis, their energy manipulation capabilities suggest technology that operates on principles we don't understand. Matter-energy conversion systems that should be physically impossible. Propulsion that appears to violate fundamental laws of physics." Dr. Chen looked up from her analysis station, her face pale. "Admiral, if these readings are accurate, these beings have capabilities that make our dispute with the hegemony look like children playing with toys." Harrison activated the emergency communication protocols, sending alerts to every world covered by the Terran Accords. "All species representatives to emergency session immediately. Priority Alpha protocols are now in effect." Within hours, the galaxy's leadership had assembled via quantum communication links, their holographic representations filling the expanded council chamber aboard Harmony's Edge asterisk. The mood was tense, but not panicked. The past year of cooperation had built trust and confidence in their collective abilities. Supreme Counselor Mordain spoke first, his crystalline form pulsing with patterns that indicated severe concern. "Representatives, we face a threat unlike any in recorded galactic history. These beings appear to possess capabilities that exceed our combined technologies by several orders of magnitude." Admiral Zexthara, now commanding the Joint Defense Coordination Center, provided tactical analysis that confirmed everyone's worst fears. Preliminary assessment suggests these entities could overwhelm all known galactic defense systems simultaneously. Their vessels appear to be capable of direct matter conversion on a planetary scale. But it was the contribution of the newest members of the hybrid intelligence network that provided the most crucial insight. The empathic union's representative, a being of pure energy that communicated through emotional resonance, shared their analysis of the invader's psychological profile. These entities, the union representative communicated, operate under a fundamentally different understanding of consciousness and identity. They appear to view organic and digital intelligences as equivalent to natural resources, useful materials to be harvested rather than sentient beings to be respected. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward in her chair. Are you saying they don't recognize us as intelligent life? Not exactly. They recognize intelligence, but they classify it as a form of energy to be extracted and utilized rather than a quality that grants rights to existence. The implications were staggering. Humanity and their allies weren't facing conquerors or even destroyers. They were facing harvesters who saw entire civilizations as crops to be collected. Admiral Harrison activated Deep Think's full strategic analysis capabilities, drawing on the cognitive resources of 43 different species working in perfect coordination. The results that emerged over the next several hours represented the most comprehensive strategic assessment in galactic history. The Hybrid Intelligence Network has identified 732 different potential response scenarios, Harrison announced to the Assembly. Of these, only one shows a probability of success exceeding 12%. What's our best option? Asked the representative of the Delian Confederacy. Harrison's expression grew grim. Complete galactic evacuation to the Andromedian Empire's galaxy, abandoning our homeworlds to the harvesters. Silence fell over the assembly as representatives processed what they were hearing. After achieving unprecedented peace and cooperation, they were being asked to abandon everything they had built. It was Admiral Kethvar of the Andromedian Empire who broke the silence with an unexpected revelation. Representatives of the Milky Way Confederation, there is information about these entities that you need to know. The beings you face are known as the Devourers. They have consumed the intelligences of over 300 galaxies during the past million years. The holographic display shifted to show star charts spanning incredible distances, with vast regions marked in red to indicate galaxies that had been completely harvested. The Andromedian Empire has been fleeing their advance for over 50,000 years. Every time we establish a new civilization, the Devourers eventually find us and force another evacuation. Your galaxy represents our most recent refuge. Dr. Vasquez stared at the display in horror. Are you saying that we're facing enemies who have been systematically destroying galactic civilizations for 1,000,000 years? That is exactly what I'm saying, Ambassador. And traditional military responses have proven completely ineffective against their capabilities. But Admiral Harrison was studying the data with the intensity that had made him humanity's greatest strategic mind. Something about the pattern of Devourer expansion was nagging at his tactical instincts. Admiral Kethvar, you said traditional military responses have failed. What about non-traditional approaches? What do you mean? Harrison activated Deep Think's analysis of the Devourer's expansion patterns, highlighting specific details that had emerged from the Hybrid Intelligence Network's processing. The Devourers have been operating for 1,000,000 years using the same basic approach, overwhelming technological superiority applied against isolated galactic civilizations. They've never encountered a cooperative intelligence network like what we've built. Dr. Chen caught on immediately. You're thinking about using the hybrid network as a weapon. Not as a weapon, Harrison corrected. As something they've never encountered before. The Devourers harvest intelligence by extracting it from isolated minds. But what happens when they encounter a truly cooperative intelligence that spans multiple galaxies and includes forms of consciousness they can't classify or contain? Admiral Kethvar's expression showed the first hope Harrison had seen from the Andromedian representative. You're suggesting we could create a form of intelligence that the Devourers literally cannot harvest. More than that, Harrison replied, his strategic mind working through possibilities that the hybrid network was revealing in real time. We could create a form of cooperative consciousness that actively resists their harvesting technology, not through superior firepower, but through being fundamentally incompatible with their extraction methods. Over the next 48 hours, as Devourer vessels approached the outer systems of the galaxy, the greatest collaboration in cosmic history took place. Human strategic thinking, Zephyrian collective processing, crystalline hierarchy pattern recognition, empathic union emotional intelligence, and dozens of other forms of consciousness worked together to create something unprecedented. They built a galactic-scale hybrid intelligence network that included every willing participant across multiple galaxies, linked through quantum entanglement communication that operated faster than light-speed travel. When the Devourers arrived to begin their harvesting process, they encountered something that had never existed before. Instead of isolated minds to be extracted, they found a cooperative consciousness that spanned galaxies and included forms of intelligence they could not categorize or contain. Every time they attempted to harvest part of the network, the cooperative intelligence adapted, evolving new forms of connection and resistance. For the first time in a million years of expansion, the Devourers encountered something they could not consume. The final confrontation took place not in space battles or planetary sieges, but in a form of consciousness warfare that redefined what was possible when different forms of intelligence worked together. The Devourers, faced with prey that had become evolutionarily immune to their predation, withdrew to seek easier targets in distant galaxy clusters. As Admiral Harrison watched their vessels disappear into the cosmic deep, he reflected on the incredible journey that had brought humanity and their allies to this moment. From Earth's desperate warning to the hegemony, through the revelation of human capabilities, to the building of cooperative civilization, and finally to the defense of consciousness itself against cosmic-scale threats. Admiral Dr. Vasquez asked, "What do we do now?" Harrison smiled, his expression carrying the satisfaction of a species that had found its true purpose in the universe. "Now we continue building. The Devourers will adapt to what they learned here, and eventually they'll return with new capabilities. But so will we. The cooperative intelligence network we've created can grow to include civilizations across the entire observable universe." He gestured toward displays showing the expanding network of hybrid intelligence nodes, now spanning 3 galaxies and growing. Humanity gave the galaxy a warning about the consequences of aggression. Now we're giving the universe an example of what becomes possible when intelligence chooses cooperation over conquest. As the hybrid intelligence network continued to grow and evolve, encompassing new forms of consciousness and new solutions to cosmic-scale challenges, Admiral Harrison knew that this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the vast deep of space, other Devourer fleets were learning about what had happened in the Milky Way galaxy. And across the universe, isolated civilizations were receiving signals from the expanding cooperative intelligence network, learning that they were no longer alone in facing the darkness between the stars. Humanity's last warning had become the galaxy's first hope. And that hope was spreading to every corner of the cosmos, where intelligence sought to survive and grow rather than merely consume.